Dr. Mary Jane McLeod Bethune. She was more than just an educator, a philanthropist, humanitarian, or a civil rights leader. She was a pioneer. She was an individual who broke through barriers that seemed like they would be impossible. Tyrone Bowman Live, this is part two of Black Profiles when I'm talking about Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. Let me show you a photo of her. I guess it's a stock photo from when she was alive. And this is the great woman that I'm talking about on today. This is part two of a series of individuals I'm talking about. So a brief overview here of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. She was born on July 10th, 1875 in Maysville, South Carolina. She transitioned into eternity on the 18th of May of 1955. She was 79 years of age in Daytona Beach, Florida. And as I said, educator, philanthropist, humanitarian, civil rights activist, pioneer, a great trendsetter. So now I'm going to talk about her education, her early education, and why she decided to become the individual that she was. So Mary Jane McLeod was born on July 10th, 1875, in a small log cabin near Maysville, South Carolina, on a rice and cotton farm in Sumter County. She was the 15th of 17 children born to Sam and Patsy McIntosh McLeod. Her parents were both former slaves. So Patsy McLeod worked after emancipation for her former owner, earning enough money to buy 5 acres from him. There, Sam and their sons built the log cabin in which McLeod was born. McLeod grew up hearing stories from her maternal grandmother, Sophie, about resistance to slavery. And both Sophie and Patsy told McLeod that she was special. McLeod created them both with inspiring her work toward equality. McLeod recalled noticing racial inequality as a child, observing that the Black community had access to less material wealth and opportunity. She particularly remembered visiting the home of the Wilsons, the family that enslaved her mother, where she explored a playhouse while Patsy worked. McLeod picked up a book, and one of the Wilson girls admonished her with, quote, "Put down that book, you can't read," end quote. McLeod later cited the incident as contributing to her desire for literacy and education. When she was 12, McLeod saw a white mob attack and nearly hang a Black man. The man had refused to bow to blow a match out for a white man, and then shoved him to the ground as McLeod watched the mob nearly hang the Black man, stopped at the last moment by the sheriff. Dr. McLeod recalled her learning about the terrifying effects of white violence and the value of allying with some white people, those she called, quote, calm men of authority, end quote. You know, the term used to be said about Black people, quote, "you're a credit to your race," end quote. In October 1886, McLeod was attending Maysville's one-room Black schoolhouse from Trinity Mission School, which was run by the Presbyterian Board of Missions of Freedom and founded by Emma Jane Wilson. The school was 5 miles from her home, and she walked there and back. Not all her siblings attended, however. She taught her family what she had learned each day. In addition to founding the school, Wilson was McLeod's teacher and became a significant mentor in her life. Wilson had attended Scotia Seminary, now Barber Scotia College. She helped McLeod attend the same school on a scholarship, which McLeod did from 1888 to 1894. She attended the Dwight L. Moody's Institute for Home and Foreign Missions in Chicago, now the Moody Bible Institute. From 1894 to 1895, Dr. McLeod applied to be a missionary with the Presbyterian Board of Missions with the goal of becoming a missionary in Africa, although her request denied. Figure that. Why would you deny a black woman an opportunity from becoming a missionary in Africa? Let me take a quick break. I'll be right back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tyrone Bowman live. I had to take a quick break. So where was I? Yeah, I was talking about Dr. McLeod being denied an opportunity, a black woman, to become a missionary by the Presbyterian faith. What the heck kind of foolishness was that back then? How is a white organization going to tell a black woman you can't become a missionary ministering to your own people in Africa? See, some things, when you really think about it, they really don't make sense. That's why I encourage people, think for yourself, read for yourself, study for yourself, research for yourself. And that's why on this program, I'm making sure I talk about the things that are important to my people. All right, now let me get back to this story. And from time to time, I will insert certain things. So she's denied by the Presbyterian Board of Missions with the goal of becoming a missionary in Africa. Although her request was denied, McLeod found a new use for the skills she had learned by teaching at Haynes Institute in Augusta, Georgia. Dr. McLeod married Albertus Bethune in 1898. The Bethunes moved to Savannah, Georgia, where she did work until they moved to Florida. They had a son named Albert McLeod Bethune, Sr. A visiting Presbyterian minister, Coydon Harold Uggams, persuaded the couple to relocate to Palaca, Florida, to run a mission school. The Bethunes moved in 1899. Mary ran the mission school and began an outreach to prisoners. Albertus left the family in 1907 and relocated to South Carolina. The couple never divorced, and Albertus died in 1918 from tuberculosis. Dr. Bethune worked as a teacher briefly at her former school in Sumter County. In 1896, she began teaching at Haynes Normal and Industrial Institute in Augusta, Georgia, which was part of a Presbyterian mission organized by Northern congregations. It was founded and run by Lucy Craft Laney, who was a Christian missionary and the daughter of former slaves. Laney ran her school with a Christian missionary zeal, emphasizing character and practical education for boys and girls who showed up eager to learn. Laney's mission was to imbue Christian moral education in her students to arm them for their life's challenges. Of her years at Laney's school, Bethune said, quote, I was so impressed with her fearlessness, her amazing touch in every aspect, and energy that seemed inexhaustible, and a mighty power to command respect and admiration from her students and all who knew her. She handled her domain with the art of a master, end quote. Dr. Bethune adopted many of Laney's educational philosophies, including her emphasis on educating girls and women to improve the conditions of Black people. Bethune's approach added a focus on political activism. After 1 year at Haynes, Bethune was transferred by the Presbyterian Mission to the Kendall Institute in Sumter, South Carolina, where she met her husband. After getting married and moving to Florida, Bethune became determined to start a school for girls. Bethune moved from Palaca to Daytona because it had more economic opportunity. It had become a popular tourist destination and businesses were thriving. In October 1904, she rented a small house for $11 per month. She made benches and desks from discarded crates and acquired other items through charity. Bethune started the Educational and Industrial Training School for Negro girls in 1904. She initially had 6 students, 5 girls and a son, Albert. At this stage, tuition was 50 cents. The school bordered Daytona's dump. She raised money by selling homemade sweet potato pies and ice cream to crews of local workers, gathering enough to purchase additional dump land. She hired workers to build the brick building called Faith Hall, paying them in part with free tuition. By 1918, Faith Hall was completed along with an additional 2-story building and an auditorium. Later, McLeod had another building constructed further from the campus to educate boys who came to the school. Now, here is a photo of Dr. Bethune early on as an educator. So that's a young Dr. Mary Bethune McLeod. Now let me get back to the story here. Now here's something interesting. In the early days of her school, the students made ink for pens from elderberry. You know, a lot of talk today about elderberry. And they made their ink from elderberry juice and pencils from burned wood. They asked local businesses for furniture. Bethune wrote later, I considered cash money as the smallest part of my resources. I had faith in a loving God, faith in myself, and a desire to serve. The school received donations of money, equipment, and labor from local black churches. Within a year, Bethune was teaching more than 30 girls at the school. After 2 years of operation, 250 girls were enrolled. Bethune also courted wealthy white organizations such as the Ladies' Palmetto Club. She invited influential white men to sit on her school board of trustees, gaining participation by James Gamble of Procter & Gamble, Ransom Eli Odds of Automobile and Rio Motor Company, and Thomas H. White of White Sewing Machines. When Booker T. Washington of the Tuskegee Institute, now Tuskegee University, visited in 1912, he advised her of the importance of gaining support from white benefactors for funding, suggesting a few ways of doing so. So here's another photo of Dr. McLeod with Marion Anderson and the Tuskegee Airmen. They were all living history at the time and didn't even know they were living history, but they were. And it's factually fun to find out about us. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to continue to talk about my people in a positive light. There's too much negativity about Black people, and I'm going to find the positive side of us. So, the rigorous curriculum had the girls rise at 5:30 a.m. for Bible study. Some of the classes in their schedules contained in home economics and industrial skills such as dressmaking, millinery, cooking, and other crafts emphasize a life of self-sufficiency. Students' days ended at 9 p.m. Soon, Bethune added science and business courses, then high school level math, English, and foreign languages. Bethune always sought donations to keep her school operating and would extend offers to wealthy white philanthropists to sit on the board in order to gain favor with them. Bethune also used her skills as a baker in order to raise money. Her friendship with Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt assisted her in making connections. One of Bethune's more generous donors was John D. Rockefeller, who reportedly provided a donation of $62,000. Now imagine how much money that was back then. Beginning in 1923, Daytona School merged with the co-educational Cookman Institute run by the Methodist Church. The institute was the first black college in Florida. Bethune became president at a time when black women rarely headed colleges. The merger completed in 1925 and formed Daytona Cookman Collegiate Institute, a co-educational junior college. Through the Great Depression, the school renamed Bethune Cookman College in 1931. Today, it's an HBCU, or a historically black university, which continued to operate and met the educational standards of the state of Florida. Throughout the 1930s, Bethune and civil rights advocate Blake R. Van Leer worked with fellow Florida institutions to lobby for federal funding. From 1936 to 1942, Bethune had to cut back her time as president because of her duties in Washington, D.C. Funding declined during this period of her absence. Nevertheless, by 1941, the college had developed a 4-year curriculum and achieved full college status. By 1942, Bethune gave up the presidency, as her health was adversely affected by her many responsibilities. On September 19, 1942, she gave the address at the Los Angeles, California launching ceremony for the Liberty ship Booker T. Washington, a ceremony in which Marian Anderson christened the ship. In the early 1900s, Daytona Beach didn't contain a hospital that would take in people of color. No matter the situation, Bethune had the idea to start a hospital after one of her students got appendicitis and was initially refused treatment at the local hospital. Bethune convinced the doctors to treat her student and left determined to open a hospital. She found a cabin near the school, and through sponsors helping her raise money, she purchased it for $5,000. In 1911, Bethune opened the first black hospital in Daytona Beach, naming it Bethune Hospital after her parents. It started with 2 beds and within a few years had 20. Both white and black physicians worked at the hospital, along with Bethune's student nurses. This hospital went on to save many black lives within the 20 years that it operated. During that time, both black and white people in the community relied on help from McLeod after hospital. After an explanation, you know what, isn't it ironic down in Florida today, you don't hear nothing positive about black people. The contributions that they made, the sacrifices that were made, and they had some of the worst civil rights demonstrations in the history of America. Don't depend upon Governor DeSantis with his racism and bigotry to educate you. Educate yourself. So the hospital and its nurses were also praised for their efforts with the 1918 influenza outbreak. During this outbreak, the hospital was full and had to overflow into the children's auditorium. In 1931, Daytona's public hospital, Halifax, agreed to open a separate hospital for people of color. Black people would not fully integrate into the public hospital's main location until the 1960s. Bethune made Daytona schools' libraries accessible to the public. It became Florida's first free library accessible to black Floridians. She hosted a weekly story hour, which hundreds of children from the county attended, and ran a boys' club. Concerned by a lack of affordable housing for black people, Bethune leveraged her status as president to lobby for improved housing access. She was appointed to the city's housing board, becoming its only black member. And she successfully pushed for a public housing project built near her school's campus. Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune joined the Equal Suffrage League, which was an organization branched off of the National Association of Colored Women in 1912. She was an advocate for voting equality, and though she couldn't yet vote, she was determined to change that for those in her community. After the passage of the 19th Amendment, know what it means, y'all, which enacted women's suffrage, Bethune continued her efforts to help black people gain access to the polls. She solicited donations to help black voters pay poll taxes. a fee voters paid to be eligible to cast their vote that was created to discriminate against black people. And they also had the counting of the jelly bean contest. They had to count how many jelly beans were in a jar and all that the foolishness. She also provided tutoring for voter registration literacy tests, another discriminatory practice limiting black Americans' ability to vote. And let me add this while I'm at it. Let me put down my script and look into the camera and say this. I am so tired of people trying to act like black people's suffrage did not pave the way for other people such as Asians, Chinese, Japanese, Latinos, Mexicans. Our ancestors paved the way in this country for you all to come here and be racist against us. They were the ones who put their bodies on the line. They were the ones who went to jail. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Dr. Ralph Abernathy went to prison 39 times. 39. Look it up for yourself. So all the racial wars, all the wars of discrimination, the wars of segregation and bigotry, they were fought by our people. Long before many of y'all came here and you have integrated into the black community and you got a nerve to be racist against black people. I see it in my neighborhood all the time. They don't want to talk to you. They walk by you. I really don't give a damn. They act like they can't see you. They have their stores. They really don't want you to come into them. Their barbershops and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I don't let nobody talk down to me and try to tell me and lecture me about my people. You darn right I love my people, just like white folk love their people, no matter how rotten and despicable they are. They still love them. They'll still vote for them because the people that they vote for are just like them. That's why they vote for them. They don't care if they make policies that'll destroy them. As long as it's destroying black people, they'll still continue to put them in office. So the 19th Amendment is what gave women the right to vote. And in part, it was due to the hard work of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune and her organization. She also provided tutoring for voter registration literacy tests, another discriminatory practice limiting black Americans' ability to vote. This took place at her school, Daytona Normal and Industrial Institute. Finally, she planned and executed mass voter registration drives. In 1896, the National Association of Colored Women, or known as the NACW, was formed to promote the needs of black women. Bethune served as the Florida chapter president of the NACW from 1917 to 1925. She worked to register black voters. She was recited by white society and had been made almost impossible by various obstacles in Florida law and practices controlled by white administrators. That's why I'm becoming a lawyer, y'all. That's why I'm a criminal justice major. Because what you don't know will hurt you. That's why it was illegal and against the law, punishable by death, to teach a slave how to even read the Bible. And that's why white people took the Bible and translated it to make black people think that they were supposed to bow down to and love whiteness. Forgive any and everything that the slave owners, the masters, did to them. What? Whatever. Let's get back to the story. She was threatened by members of the resurgent Ku Klux Klan in those years. Today, the Ku Klux Klan are in the military. They're called ICE agents. They're called the Proud Boys, and all that kind of stuff. Bethune also served as the president of the Southeastern Federation of Colored Women's Clubs from 1920 to 1925, which worked to improve opportunities for women. She was elected national president of the NACW in 1924. While the organization struggled to raise funds for regular operations, Bethune envisioned acquiring a headquarters and hiring a professional executive secretary. She implemented this when NACW bought a property at 1318 Vermont Avenue in Washington, D.C. Gaining national reputation in 1928, Bethune was invited to attend the Child Welfare Conference called by Republican President Calvin Coolidge. In 1930, President Herbert Hoover appointed her to the White House Conference on Child Health. The Southeastern Federation of Colored Women's Clubs, eventually renamed as the Southeastern Association of Colored Women's Clubs, elected Bethune as president after its first conference in 1920 at the Tuskegee Institute. They intended to reach out to Southern women, specifically white women, for support and unity in gaining rights for Black women. The women met in Memphis, Tennessee, to discuss interracial problems. In many aspects, all of the women agreed about what needed to be changed until they came to the topic of suffrage. The white women at the conference tried to strike down a resolution on Black suffrage. The SACWC responded by issuing a pamphlet entitled Southern Negro Women and Race Cooperation. It deleted, or pardon me, it demanded or presented her demands regarding conditions in domestic service, child welfare, conditions of travel, education, lynching, the public press, and voting rights. The group went on to help register Black women to vote after they were granted suffrage resulting from the passage of the constitutional amendment. However, in both Florida and southern states, Black men and women experienced disenfranchisement by discriminatory application of literacy and comprehension tests and requirements to pay poll taxes, lengthy residential requirements, and government insistence upon keeping and displaying relevant records. Let's talk about the National Negro of Colored Women. In 1935, Bethune founded the National Council of Negro Women, or the NCNW, in New York City, bringing together representatives of 28 different organizations to work to improve the lives of Black women and their communities. Bethune said of the council, "It is our pledge to make a lasting contribution to all that is finest and best in America, to cherish and enrich her heritage of freedom and progress, by working for the integration of all her people, regardless of race, creed, or national origin, into her spiritual, social, cultural, civic, and economic life, and thus aid her to achieve the glorious destiny of a true and unfettered democracy." Quote, close quote. In 1938, the NCNW hosted the White House Conference on Negro Women and Children, demonstrating the importance of Black women in democratic roles. During World War II, the NCNW gained approval for Black women to be commissioned as officers in the Women's Army Corps. Bethune also served as a political appointee and the special assistant to the Secretary of War during the war. In the 1930s, the headquarters for the National Council for Negro Women moved to Pennsylvania Avenue, centrally located between the White House and the U.S. Capitol. The former headquarters, where Bethune also at one time, has been designated as a National Historic Site. Well, we'll see how long that lasts. So in part 3, I will be talking about the National Youth Administration that Bethune founded, the Black Cabinet I'll be talking about, the civil rights, and also about the United Negro College Fund, her transition and accolades in her personal life. So thank you for watching. Let's see what's going on here in the comment section. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Tyrone Bowman live. I was trying to read all the comments, but they seem to have disappeared. So join me in the next video. Never surrender. Never quit.